Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this edition of Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-eun in Seoul. Before we get started, let's first get a quick check of today's highlights. Lotte Group Vice Chairman has been found dead in a suspected suicide amid an ongoing probe by prosecutors into the family-run conglomerate. As central bank governors meet at Jackson Hole, eyes are on the U.S. Fed Chair Janet Yellen and whether she might provide some insight into future rate hikes. These stories and more coming right up. The vice chairman of Korean retail giant Lotte Group was found dead early Friday morning. Lee Won, the right-hand man of Chairman Shin Dong-bin, was due to be questioned by prosecutors as part of the ongoing probe into the group's financial irregularities. Our Kim Hae-sung starts us off.
Lotte Group Vice Chairman Lee Won was found dead Friday morning on a walking trail in Yangpyeong, south of Seoul. His body was discovered by a passerby just past 7 a.m. local time, 2 hours before he was scheduled to be questioned by Seoul prosecutors as a suspect in a criminal investigation into Lotte Group. Police say it appears he hanged himself. To identify the exact cause of Lee's death, police authorities say they will conduct an autopsy and hold a briefing at a later time. Lee's handwritten will was found in his car near the walking trail. In the 4-page letter to his family and Lotte Group employees, he said, "I'm sorry for leaving early at this difficult time. The so-called secret slush fund does not exist." The 69-year-old was Lotte Group Chairman Shin Dong-bin's right-hand man. Since joining the company in 1973, he held key positions in policy coordination or the control tower of the group, making decisions on investments as well as mergers and acquisitions. Prosecutors believe Lee, along with Lotte Group President Hwang Gak-gyu and Head of External Relations So Jin-se, who were summoned on Thursday and August 15th respectively, are 3 key members involved in the group's alleged embezzlement and creation of multi-million-dollar slush funds. Soon after news of Lee's suicide broke, prosecutors released a statement saying they were saddened by his death and would reschedule the investigation accordingly. High-level officials at Lotte Group are discussing follow-up measures, and there are expectations Lee's suicide will slow down the wide-reaching probe into the group's irregularities. Kim Hae-sung, Business Daily.
To mark the anniversary of the nation's Innovation Center network, Korea has kicked off a festival celebrating the startup movement. While making note of achievements so far, President Park Geun-hye also suggested some new tasks for these centers to take on. Our Song Ji-sun has the details.
Korea's innovation centers are the backbone of President Park's creative economy drive, providing one-stop services for new startups and helping them enter overseas markets. Less than a year since the nation's 17 centers were launched, the network has supported over 2,800 startups and small-sized companies, while attracting over $250 million in investment. President Park Geun-hye on Friday opened a festival highlighting all of the achievements these centers have accomplished over the past year. In her remarks, she said the innovation centers, which have led the way in fostering startups in Korea, must now act as a platform for sharing best practices and creating synergy among different regions and across resources.
창업 여건이 우수한 지역은 대표적 창업 거점으로 육성하고 성공적으로 지역 특화 사업을 추진 중인 지역은 전국적인 지원이 가능하도록 플랫폼 기능과 역량을 강화해야 합니다.
Startups nurtured at these centers have debuted on the international stage at places like the Mobile World Congress and have also received support from foreign accelerators. The system has also been exported to South America and the Middle East as a model of an innovative economy.
혁신센터들을 중심으로 변화와 혁신의 열기를 확산시키고 그 기운을 해외로까지 힘차게 뻗어내서 대한민국의 새로운 미래를 함께 만들어 나가기를 기대합니다.
President Park also said to link the startup movement to job creation, these centers must work as a platform for employment by linking startups with qualified personnel in cooperation with regional businesses and schools. Song Ji-sun, Business Daily.
Korea's three major political parties have restarted their deliberations on the government's almost $10 billion supplementary budget plan. The floor leaders of the parties had agreed on Thursday to put the budget bill up for a full floor vote on Tuesday. Officials hope that the supplementary budget will breathe fresh life into Korea's sluggish economy. It will include funds to support workers affected by the ongoing restructuring among shipbuilders. Deliberations were stalled last week as the opposition refused to go ahead with the review session without first completing the witness selection for next month's hearing on the shipbuilding industry. And despite lingering concerns about the government's corporate restructuring drive, Korea's consumer sentiment bounced back this month, marking a high not seen since late last year. Our Oh Jung-hee has the details.
Korea's consumer sentiment hit an 8-month high in August. The Bank of Korea says the composite consumer sentiment index came in at 102 for this month, the same figure as last December. That's up 1 point from July when the reading bounced back above 100. The index shows an improvement for the second consecutive month after the readings in May and June came in below 100 due to the government's corporate restructuring drive, which triggered fears of massive layoffs in the country's shipping and shipbuilding industries. A reading above 100 means optimists outnumber pessimists. The monthly index reflects consumers' outlook on the economy, their living conditions, and future spending plans. The central bank says the rosier outlook on the economy comes after Standard & Poor's decision to upgrade Korea's credit rating from AA- to AA, with a stable outlook on the country's steady growth and flexible fiscal and monetary policy. Korea now has the same rating as Britain and France and is 1 higher than China and 2 higher than Japan. The government's expansionary fiscal policy, including a proposed budget supplement currently pending at the National Assembly, also contributed to boosting the expectations for the economy. Oh Jung-hee, Business Daily.
Korea's kimchi is now back on track for full exports to China after a hiatus of nearly 6 years. According to Seoul's Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, 4 local kimchi companies have already shipped the first batch of 10 kimchi varieties, weighing a total of 7 tons. This comes after Beijing agreed to ease its quarantine regulations on the pickled cabbage dish following a bilateral summit meeting in October. The Food Ministry says it plans to export a total of 100 tons of kimchi worth over $400,000 by the end of this year and another 500 tons next year. It's Friday, and that means it's now time for a look through some of the global business stories that made headlines this week. For that, we're now joined by our Eunice Kim in the studio. Hi, Eunice.
Hello.
So let's begin in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where Wall Street had dubbed it must-watch TV as Fed Chair Janet Yellen is expected to give a speech on this economic symposium later tonight, Korea time. And also now the question is, will she give a much-desired direction on rate hikes this year?
Right. Will it be September? Will it be December? Or will it be January? We've seen risk-averse investors keeping trading volumes pretty much flat this week in Asia, as well as in Europe and the United States, ahead of this symposium of central bankers and other powerful players of the global economy. Now, the reason why this 2-day retreat in the mountains of Wyoming is being watched so closely is because history has been made before. For example, past Fed chairs Ben Bernanke and Alan Greenspan have used Jackson Hole as a platform to signal major policy shifts in the past. So, will it be so for Janet Yellen? There is some healthy skepticism here. The title of her speech, the Federal Reserve's Monetary Policy Toolkit, hints at a discussion of options for the U.S. Central Bank at this juncture, in line with the symposium's theme of designing resilient monetary policy frameworks for the future. Nonetheless, investors will be listening closely for hints.
Now, this symposium comes at a time when monetary policies around the world have not had the impact that many had wished for. So I think this gathering is quite important for central bankers to compare notes and discuss different options.
Yeah, absolutely. Negative interest rates, weak economies from the developing world, especially Turkey and Brazil, as well as currency wars. There is no shortage of topics to discuss as central bankers try to climb out of the global low-growth crater made by the 2007 through 2009 recession. Case in point, Bank of Japan Governor Haruhiko Kuroda is among the participants of this annual symposium. Out today is Japan's CPI, Consumer Price Index figures for July, a key indicator for inflation. And it showed not an improvement, but a worsening, the fifth month-on-month fall. Core CPI, which excludes fresh food prices, again dipped to minus 0.5%. That is worse than expectations.
Not a lot of good numbers there, but let's head over to technology news, I guess. I mean, technology has been both a great disruptor and a growth area, and you have some headlines in that area because we have a study that shows Asian companies actually have the worst cybersecurity in the world.
Yeah, and this may not come off as a huge surprise to those of us in Korea who have learned of pretty massive identity thefts in recent years. And this study comes to us from a U.S. security company called Mandiant, which focused its year-long investigation for the first time on Asia. And what it found, to borrow from one CTO's words, was very concerning. For one, it said the median time lapse between a hack attack and its discovery was, get this, 520 days, which is more than 3 times the global average. In each attack, an average of 3.7 gigabytes of data was stolen, and most attacks went unpublicized because many governments do not have disclosure laws, suggesting the bulk of cyber strikes in Asia were state-sponsored. Mandiant added, not dealing with the problem transparently could compromise a country's competitiveness. Switching over to a couple tech trials now, Singapore has launched the world's first driverless taxi trial with the goal of making it public by the year 2018. The company behind the 6-vehicle trial is a startup software developer, Nutonomy, begun by 2 MIT researchers. Now it's using small Renault and Mitsubishi EVs installed with its software and cameras, as well as a backup human driver, to transport pre-approved users within a 4 square kilometer area of North Singapore. Collecting feedback for now, Nutonomy sees self-driving taxis potentially changing the way cities of the future are built, like smaller and more pedestrian-friendly streets.
This is really a moment in history that's going to change how cities are built and how we really look at our surroundings. Much like the advent of mass-produced cars after World War II really created a lot of cities in America and around the world. Autonomous vehicles, I think, are going to change how we actually build cities.
And finally, let's go ahead and hop on over to New Zealand, where an American pizza chain is set to test the world's first pizza delivery by drone. You see it there. A demonstration was held in Auckland on Thursday. A drone dropped off a box of Domino's pizza to its chief executive officer, who was joined by Australian drone operator Flirty's CEO and New Zealand's transport minister himself. The full-fledged trial is set to begin later this year, and it does come as New Zealand rolled out new aviation rules last year to enable commercial drone usage, one of the world's first to do so. Domino's Pizza also hoping to expand the service to Japan, Australia, Belgium, France, and Germany, just to name a few.
You know, honestly, I can't imagine having my pizza delivered by a drone.
And I wonder if it would be as warm,
right? And as like nicely put together.
Right. We'll have to wait and see. They have some time to figure that out.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today, Eunice.
You bet.
And that wraps it up for today and this week. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back next week with more at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. So don't forget to tune in then. Have a great weekend, everyone.